Okay, go ahead.
I guess I went to an astrology conference years ago. And when I was at the astrology conference, it was about 2019. Yeah, 19. I met lots of astrologers there, but I also met Shaitan Parkeen. And he was great. And he talked about, he gave me a reading and I found out that I was a manifesting generator. And then afterwards, I watched some of his videos and it talked about the uh-huh. And I'm
Mhm.
like, wow, this is crazy. This is just what I do, you know? And it actually
Okay.
helped me. And then like I kind of like lost interest. And then years later, a couple years later, like a couple years ago, I started getting into it again, and I started
Okay.
like pulling up my chart and seeing what they had, and then I noticed that there's a caves. Not all human design have the caves environment stuff, but that's kind of new, I guess, to some people. I don't know, but I love the caves idea because that's like that made sense because behind me is a wall, and I always like to sit with my back behind by a wall, like on my
Mhm.
office, every office I've ever had at home, my home office, because I have two desks. I got one desk over there behind me, and then that I like having a wall behind me, and it makes me feel like more at ease than having like a big open thing.
Mhm.
And then I also found out about the frustration. I found out about the 2-4 profile, and that's kind of like, yeah, this is really me, and I really like the 2-4 profile.
Okay. Okay,
And
great. So
then
so you have some
and the
basics.
basic stuff. The basic stuff is what
Yeah.
I know. I didn't. I have three of his books. One of them was on gates and lines, but that's about it. Yeah.
Okay, great. So then what can I support you with? Like what kind of challenges are you having or issues you have or what is it that inspired you to want to have a reading?
Well, I'm kind of like at an impasse right now.
Okay.
My mom passed away in 2023 June, and for the past like 34 years, my dad passed away actually when I was about 18 and a half.
Mm.
And when my dad passed away, we had a restaurant. So I worked at my dad's restaurant from like 12 years old to 18 years old and all through high school, in middle school. So I worked at my dad's restaurant. I didn't like it. I liked it. I had a really good time, but I had an uncle who was a tyrant and he berated my father and my mother and my father and me and everyone in the whole family, everyone in the restaurant. So that's why I wanted to get out of there. And so at senior year, I started using drugs and alcohol. And I was using that for like an 8-year period from like 86 to about I finally got clean in 2000 November 20th, 1994. So I just this past November 20th I celebrated 30 years clean and sober. So I haven't had drugs or alcohol for over 30 years now. And so when my dad passed away, my mom sold her share of the restaurant and she got the life insurance money and she bought apartment buildings. So two six flats, so that's 12 units. And I've been basically managing them since 1990 up until her passing. And now when she passed in 2023, my my years of a property manager were over. I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore. So I talked to my sister. I have a younger sister. She's also a manifesting generator, and she's got a daughter who's also a manifesting generator. But I don't think we're all the same manifesting generators. And I'm thinking about giving them a reading on their birthdays. My niece's birthday is January 13th, and my sister's birthday is February at the end of February. So I'm thinking about giving them a reading for them so they can get more into it. My sister's
Okay.
going to retire in about a year and a half, and she's an assistant principal at a middle school. So I talked to her, and we weren't making that much money from the apartment buildings. We were making like about 4% a year. That's what we're doing. And that's not including all the hours that I'm putting in.
Oh, yeah.
See what I
Wow.
mean?
Yeah.
So when you factor that in, we weren't making anything,
Right.
you
Yeah.
know? So I'm like, Patty, this doesn't make sense. And she's like, you're right, let's sell them. So we sold everything in 2024, in the house too, of course. And now I had gotten married to another drug addict in 2010, and now I'm happily divorced. Thank God I'm not with her anymore. All we did was fight. It was terrible. We were married for 5 years, but from first date to divorce, we were together for like 11 years. So we were together for a while. She wasn't a nice person, but she had a nice body and everything, so that's why I stayed with her. So after we got divorced, and we got divorced August 2015, I started going on this what I call a know thyself journey,
Hmm.
and I got introduced to numerology. Well, I knew numerology before I was married, but then I knew a little bit about astrology too. And then my mom told me my birth time was 11 o'clock in the morning. And when I put that in the equation, it said that I'm a Scorpio rising. So I read that, I'm like, no, it doesn't fit me. So I let astrology go. But when I was getting the divorce, they want the church wanted my birth certificate. So I found that I was 7:28 a.m., which made me a Virgo rising. And I'm like,
Mm.
huh. And then I put that in, and I started watching videos and reading books. And I'm like, yeah, this totally makes sense. And this is like after I got divorced, of course. So I was on this Know Thyself journey, and then like human design fell into it too. And it's like now, I mean, I'm a triple Virgo. I got seven planets stellium in Virgo in my first house. So that first house is about the personality, and I really know myself, and I really like have been doing numerology for years now with my friends, like personal years and stuff like that, and figuring out what their personal months are and what cycle they're in. So now I'm in a four personal year cycle, which is a lot of hard work. And what I've been trying to do is launch a YouTube station, a channel. And basically, what I want to do is I want to introduce people to the Know Thyself journey. I want to introduce them to numerology, astrology, human design, Myers-Briggs, um, Midas, multiple intelligence development assessment scale, strength finders. Basically, that's what I want to do. And I have a channel that I've been on for about a year, and it has my poetry. I wrote a poetry book. This is my poetry book right here. And it was Waterside Time Machine Portals. And now I just finished this is book Alpha, and I just finished Omega. My niece has that. Should be done by the end of this week, actually. Editing. She's editing that. And then I also wrote another book, and the other book is with another editor of mine. And the other book is called, can you see this? Embracing Divine Love.
Hmm.
Path to Personal Growth, an essay on how to know thyself by integrating spiritual principles. And my other editor has that. Patrick has that one. So now I'm at the stage of I'm having two books, I consider them my little babies. And now it's like, as a manifesting generator, I start so many things. I've got so many eyes in the sky, so many ideas. And I'd like to move to Greece in by July, this July. Me and my sister have 4.5 acres of land on the Mediterranean. I went there in May, and I liked it. I went there for 26 days, and it made sense. And now I want to know like about being on I'm pretty sure I'm on the right path, but I want to confirm that I can make things that I want to have happen because it's kind of like I don't know. You have you have you have information about and also relationships with manifesting generators. It's like this part of me is like all this should have happened already, and part of this is like no, this is the right place. It's like it's like it's a little unsettling. is what it is. And I want to find out if what can how can I know myself better to make things progress more smoothly is what I want to know. Is there anything
So
that
how are they not
design
progressing smoothly? What is the challenge?
it's I mean, I've been starting this process. I had a couple channels before, and now that it's 2024, it seems as though part of me is like I should have made more videos. I should have made more of this, more of that, but I wasn't too sure on what to do. And I feel like I'm on the right track, and I'd like to know more about my human design that could help me make more sense of what I can be, what I can get out of this. That's more in a realistic fashion. You know, it seems like it seems like time is going too fast. And that's what it seems like,
Well,
yeah.
well, time is speeding up. And time is also not linear.
Right.
So sometimes time expands and sometimes it contracts.
Oh,
So
really?
time, yeah, time's not linear. It's not the way the clock works. So, and especially the more that you connect to beyond 3D reality, the more that you become aware of that time morphs. So you're feeling that uh that things are going fast is accurate. Things are going fast. These are, things are accelerating. We are in a very potent time. If you follow astrology, I'm sure Pluto's just moved into Aquarius.
Right.
We're about to move into the Aquarian age fully with the precession of the equinoxes next year. Uh, and there's an enormous amount of change that's happening in the outer planets. I mean, we're really at an extraordinarily dynamic time. And I don't know if you're aware of this, but our whole solar system is coming close to the galactic center. It's going through the photon belt. It's coming close to the galactic center. And as it does that, it's activating our sun, which is why we're getting so many solar storms and of such big magnitude, right? I mean, we've been able to see the aurora borealis in like New Jersey or Washington State. Usually you see that like in Sweden or you see it near the Arctic Circle. So that the movement of the solar system around the galaxy and coming close to the galactic center, and it's activating our sun. So then our sun is activating us, and that is speeding things up, and it is activating our pineal gland, and it is activating the earth. And so this is why energetically there's so much kind of transformative energy happening, which can also give a sense of speed because the speed of transformation is accelerating. So I was at an event recently where the speaker, who's a channel and an intuitive, really powerful being, and he was just saying that, it used to be in the past that we would kind of go into a transformative experience and it would be like, okay, this thing is coming up. I need to meet this thing. I need to explore what it is. I can work with a practitioner. I can kind of heal it. Okay, I can let that go. And that could go on for anywhere for days to weeks to months, right? You could do that. And then after you do that, there's then room for, the next evolution of your soul development to come in. Um, and he said, and now it's all happening simultaneously. Right? It's like releasing, healing, letting go of the old, and bringing in the new, and having it come in and integrate it all at the same time. And that will change our experience of time. Because what we used to do, let's just say what we used to do in a month, we're now doing in a week. So that gives us the experience of things moving faster because what we're doing inside of these increments according to the clock is accelerating. At the same time, as a human experience, a lot of times we feel like things are slowing down a little bit because the energy is going faster. We're still in 3D reality. We're still moving around. We're still driving in a car and using a computer. And so we've got this, material form that we are interfacing with. And that slows things down because the 3D reality is slower than 5D reality. But 5D reality is coming in and influencing all of us. So, just in terms of time, you're correct that our experience of time is changing and it is accelerating. Now, the thing is, my experience and my recommendation is that you practice coming into stillness and quiet as much as possible. Because when you do that, you find the still point amidst all the change. Because there's always a still point inside, right?
Mhm.
And
Right.
that gives us ballast during a time when so many things are changing so quickly and mysteriously sometimes. So does that make sense?
Yeah, it actually does. And I I don't know if you ever heard of Kairos and Chronos before, the terms.
I have heard of them. I don't know them well, but yeah,
Well, Chronos is about
they're forms of time. Yeah,
7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, ten
clock
o'clock.
time.
We started today at 4 in my time and 2 at your time. And Kairos in Greek, the word Kairos means weather. It basically actually means weather. So it's like when the time is right, when it's about time, that's when it happens, you know. And like, and I'm more of a Kairos kind of guy than a Chronos. I really am not too
Hmm.
thrilled about Chronos, you know. Hello, and Chronos is really Saturn is what it is, and Kairos is I don't know what it is, but Kairos is more of like when the time's right, it'll happen, you know. And I'm more of that kind of guy for me, and that's and all the work that I've done in the past. I'm more of a Kairos kind of guy.
Okay.
I can relate to Kairos more than Chronos.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
don't
Well, and Chronos
despise
is made up. I mean,
I
clock
don't
time is made
despise
up.
yeah, I don't despise Chronos, right? I just rather be it in Kairos, you know.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is manifesting generators, plus you've got the 3420, which
Well,
is the
that's
fastest.
the
The,
throat, yeah.
well, it's the 34 from the sacral to the
The
throat.
sacral to the throat, right.
Mhm. Yeah. So it's the 3420. It's the most powerful, fastest channel in the chart. So
Okay.
people who have that often have it defined, um, often are pretty speedy people. And that can be a blessing and a challenge because a lot of times people I know who have the 3420, sometimes they can kind of spin. They can kind of run because the 34 is known as the busy gate, right? It's the
Yeah.
gate of power. And so it's fueling this channel and it can lead you to being really busy, not doing anything. I don't know if you've ever had that
Yeah,
experience.
I understand completely. I can relate to that.
Yeah. Yeah. It
Spinning my
happens
wheels, yeah.
sometimes. Yeah.
Spinning my wheels, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Spin your wheels. So, what I always suggest for people who have the 3420 is it's important for you to learn how to manage your energy so your energy doesn't manage you.
Okay.
Right? Because it's fast moving, powerful energy, right? And it'll move you around, it'll spin you around, if you don't get on top of it and say, okay, I'm gonna be in command of that energy and I'm gonna decide where I'm gonna channel it, right? That's the sovereignty piece, right? The sovereignty piece is I'm gonna be in command of my energy rather than feeling like I'm pushed around by my energy.
Mhm.
Right. And so that's one of the key things for people who have that 3420 um, is to be able to get on top of that. Um, does that make sense? Does that land for you?
It does. And years ago, I used to be a outside salesperson for a dealership of ADT, and I would knock on about 100 doors a day. For
Wow.
3 years, I did this. It was 100% commission. And I basically got in every night. I got in every night at least once, every time I was working. And I got really good at convincing people to let me into their homes. And it was because I guess I have charisma. I don't know what we want to call it, but I have a good personality. Maybe it's the stellium in my first house. I don't know what it is, but I was good at communicating with people and having them be comfortable with me coming into and having them invite me into their home, you know. So I was good at that, and I did that because for years I accumulated all this debt. I accumulated like $37,000 in debt with three different credit cards, and then I got a call one day from this zero debt solution company, and they go, "Hey, John, it looks like you got a lot of debt. We could help you." And I'm like, "How can you help me?" And they go, "Tell me about it." So I told them all the debt that I had, and they go, "Okay." They did the calculations, and they go, "If you could pay $600 a month to us every month for 3 years and not miss one payment, we could help you get rid of your debt." And I'm like, "Let's do it." And I had no idea how to do it because I only had a part-time job back then. So I didn't know how I was going to get $600, but I knew it was going to happen. So I went right away to LinkedIn and I found this job and it seemed great and I went the next day for an interview the next day and they hired me right away. And I started and I never missed a payment. I paid the 600 every month. They knocked off about 14,000 in debt from my 37,000. So yeah, and in
Wow.
3 years it was all paid off and I worked hard and I basically what I did what you said. I channeled my energy so I
Hmm.
could get that done, you know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Hmm.
So
Yeah.
yeah, that's how I
And
did it.
see, and that's the power of the manifesting generator, right? Is you do have manifesting energy, plus you have the sacral. And so, those energies together really give you a lot of ability to activate and to manifest. So that's a great way to just be like, okay, I'm going to use this energy and this is what I'm going to create, right? And so, yeah, yeah. So what else do you feel like is challenging for you?
When I
You
see that,
mentioned time,
yeah,
right?
time and my emotions are much better now. My emotional waves, I feel more relaxed with them now than I did before. Before they would be like, oh, I would be like, I would blow up like a volcano
Hmm.
sometimes. I was like married, and now I've done a lot of like meditation and prayer. And I mean, I told you I started my recovery in 94. And now I got 30 years clean and sober. And I basically did that by going to Narcotics Anonymous for like 29 years. And this past July, I said bye-bye to all my friends in Narcotics Anonymous. And now I'm in Alcoholics Anonymous.
Oh, okay.
I made a big switch, big switch. And the reason I did it was because in NA, Narcotics Anonymous, they, I discovered they weren't like talking about. I was like the only one talking like about God and God as being the solution, and everyone was like, I don't know. I'm like, what is this? Well, God's in the steps, and then I met this guy Dimitri, and he was a newcomer back then, and he started going to both fellowships, AA and NA. So for about a year, I was going to both AA. I was go like at least one AA meeting and one NA meeting a week. I would go to like two, three meetings a week, four meetings sometimes. But I would go to at least one in AA, one in N. So I got to see that in AA, every single meeting I went to, they talked about God as the solution. And I'm like, they don't do that in NA anymore. So I decided to say bye-bye. After my trip to Greece, I came back and I go, forget this stuff. I'm not going to be a part of this anymore. So now I have a whole new friend group now. And
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Well, and my understanding too is different meetings can be quite different from each other. I mean,
yeah, they are, yeah. But I used to go
even
to a
inside
lot.
of NA or AA, different meetings can be more, some of them are more Christian, some are more God oriented, some of them are not so much. So there's a variation, which is good because different
My
people have different,
area,
you know,
in my
yeah,
area, it wasn't like in like other areas they do talk about God, but in my area for some reason
yeah,
they
for
don't.
your particular meeting, that wasn't
Yeah.
happening.
Well, meetings. I go to many.
Okay.
I don't just go to one a week. I go to many.
Okay.
and I used to be public relations chairperson. Anyways, so I did that. I did that that shift, and it's good. I like leaving there, and I have smaller friend group now, which is fine with me. You know, I don't need that many friends. I mean, I have a lot of acquaintances, of course, but I'm
Okay.
more in the AA. They're more open to me now than my NA people were. So
Okay. Well,
yeah.
and one of the things that's interesting, John, is that your Chiron is in the gate 25. And that's the gate of spirit, the love of spirit.
Really,
Mm-hmm.
when did
And,
it get there?
and you're, well, it's always been there.
Oh, it's always been there.
Oh yeah,
The
it's
A's.
always your
Okay.
human design chart never changes. It's
Okay.
always the same, but it does get stronger with your Chiron return, which happens around age 50. So it doesn't surprise me that you would want to have the supportive spirit for you in your on your journey. That totally
Mm.
makes sense to me. So a couple of things. You have a lot of both creative energy and intuitive energy. Are you aware of that?
I'm super creative and I'm super intuitive. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah. Yeah.
great.
I've got a lot. Yeah.
Okay. So you feel like those are parts of yourself that you're in contact with and you express that and everything.
Yeah.
That's great. That's great, John, because a lot of times when I do readings for people, they're not as so in touch with their
Okay.
creativity and their intuition in particular because our culture doesn't really value those things.
Right.
You know, the culture values logic and analysis and strategy and all that left brain stuff. So I always like to point that out because those are, like if you look at the chart I sent you with the circuits on it, you can see the one that has the most is the sensing circuit, and the sensing circuit is right-brained energy, and you've got it right there at the very beginning, the 6447. So that's the beginning of the sensing circuit, comes in right through that right brain.
I see
Um,
it here, the sensing. It's like, it's funny. It says 369, which is like, I don't know if numerology, that's like very significant.
Well,
Uh, I
all
don't,
that
I,
mean, yeah, but all that means is that there are three that are unconscious and six that are conscious, and they add up to nine.
they add up to nine. Right.
That's what that means.
That's like, that number 369 is, it's like a prime number. It's like a, you know, the Fibonacci. Have
The
you ever heard?
Fibonacci sequence, uh-huh.
It's based on 369. I don't know if you know that. It's just coincidentally.
Well, the Fibonacci sequence, it doubles every time.
Well, okay. All right. It does.
It's
But
exponential,
the
right?
369 can be found in that too.
Okay.
That's what I
Okay.
found.
Well, three times three is nine, so that's an exponential, yeah.
Okay.
Um,
So the
but
sensing, what is that? Is the sensing the creative and the intuition, or is it different?
it's right brain energy. So I consider creativity a form of intuition because
Oh,
the definition of intuition, like if you were just to go pick up a regular dictionary and read it, basically what it says is intuition is any way of knowing that's not logical, rational, or reasonable.
okay.
So it basically defines it by not be anything that's not left brain energy, right? And in human design, the way that our knowingness gets tracked is we get the right brain energy, which is the sensing circuit, but then we also have the knowing circuit, which is the biggest subcircuit in the chart. You have a fair bit of that also. You have 7 activations in the knowing circuit. So, so you do, like I said, you have a fair bit of intuitive energy as well, and the creative is expansive, it's experiential, it's embodied, it's creative, it's yeah, it likes to experience life. It's like I want to try things out. So that's what the sensing circuit is like.
Okay.
Yeah. And like I said, you've got this beginning here. So this is where you're going to get downloads from superconsciousness coming in through that right brain. And that can come to you as creative ideas or seeing things differently or new possibilities arising and that sort of thing. Are you tapped into that?
I'm getting massive stuff all the time. I got a children's book that I want to do. I got other books, and I got ideas, and now it's like I'm like overwhelmed with all this stuff that I have. So I what I do is and I've been doing all these years is I log my ideas down in my Google Docs, and I got other things that I put them on. And then when I get around to them, I'll get around to them. You know,
Mm-hmm.
that's what I've been doing. Like this book, Waterside Time Machine Portals. I did this book. Where is it at? I did this book 2018 February,
Okay.
the same month that I started driving for Uber. And now in August, after my birthday, I'm like, I came here. I moved out of my mom's house, and I came into this apartment here, and I laid out my book. Once I got all the boxes out of the way, I laid out my book because I already had it ready to be done, and I put it on hold since 2018. So I put it out on my table, and it's been sitting there until like this past August, from October, like October, November, until it's August, and I'm like, I'm sick and tired of seeing this here. I'm gonna get it done, and I got it done, and then as soon as I got it done, the last piece of the book was called "The Enemy Within," and I looked at it and I was reading it. I'm like, you know what? I could elaborate on this, and then 10 days later, I had a 35-page essay, which is the Embracing Divine Love book.
Mm.
That's how I work.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
that's an example of your sensing circuit, right? Is you're
I,
just getting the download for what it is and you're
I,
just expressing it out.
I, I
Yeah.
did it in 10 days, and then I put it on hold, and I said, you know what? I can't do this right now because I was in the middle of doing my poetry book, my second poetry book, Book Omega. And I'm like, I want to finish the Book Omega. So when I finished Book Omega, about a week later after I finished, and I gave it to the Halloween, October 31st is when I gave it to my editor, my niece. And then I said, I'm going to finish this now. Then I put the final touches on, and I found another editor and gave it to him, and he should be having it probably in January. So
Wow. It sounds
that's
like
the
you've had a lot of great creative projects that you've been working on.
manifesting
And
generator stuff. Yeah. And then my YouTube channel, it's like I put some stuff up there, and when I was in Greece, and some people didn't like what I was sharing. And so I did a lot of revisions and editing, and then by August I put everything on hold for my YouTube channel, and I said I'm going to do this book now, this book here, and now I've got like next month. I mean, I'm in a 7 month right now in numerology, so I'm like more internal. And so I'm not doing too much, but next month, January of the next year is going to be a 5 month, which is about going in five different directions at once, and that's probably what's going to happen. So I'll probably start doing YouTube videos again, and I got like all these things I want to do, and yeah, I
so, do
call
you
them
have any
my
particular
bin.
aspirations that are connected to your YouTube channel or your books or anything?
Aspirations, what is that? Well, what do you mean by that?
Something you aspire to? Like,
Okay.
an intention that you have or an ambition that you have
Yeah,
or a
yeah. I finally,
desire?
I finally came up with something this month. Now that I've been like being in my introversion in the 7 month, and I basically want to help others get on the know thyself journey. Because what that happened to me was I got in touch with my soul when I got
Mhm.
in my know thyself journey. And a lot of people are not in touch with their soul. If they want to get in touch with it, these methodologies like human design and it helps people get in touch with their soul. And basically, in
Yeah.
my book, Embracing Divine Love, I have a three-step process. The first step is go within. Second step is discover the divine. And the third step is follow the divine every day. That's it. And what I aspire to do is to help people go within and discover the divine. And then once they discover the divine, it's on them. The divine will guide them. I have really, I'm done. My work is done. The
Yeah.
divine will guide them, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely. I agree. Yeah. I mean, it's like, I mean, a lot of the work that I do help is about helping people connect with their inner guidance, you
inner
know?
guidance. That's it.
Yeah. And I mean, in strategy and authority teach us that in human design for sure. So one thing I want to point out, which you may have already thought about, but is that so you have an open G center, and
Oh yeah,
people who have an open G, it's really important for them to be in the right place with the right people. Because when you have an open G, you're going to be picking up and amplifying the energy of people who have defined Gs. And that is the center for love and lovability, identity, and direction. So, um, if you're not with the right people, it can be really difficult. Like you were describing being in the restaurant and your uncle was being abusive to people and stuff. That was probably really hard for you to, because
yeah.
it hurts your heart, right? So it's like for you, so you're want to make this move to Greece, and the thing I would just say is make sure that it really feels like this is the right place and that you're going to be with the right people when you're there. And even if you go somewhere and you land and it doesn't feel quite right or the people don't feel quite right or whatever, I would just support you to keep looking around, like keep just kind of moving around and seeing. And I don't know, do you already have a community of people who are there, or is this brand new for you? You're just going to go and
I went there for 26 days, as I said in May, and I
Mhm.
met. I couldn't find an NA meeting there. I tried. I reached out. I did the website. I did the email. Nothing. They didn't never responded to me. And AA responded to me, and I found a meeting by where I'm going to be, and it's a place called Pilos, and these two people there. One of them is like an archaeologist, and the other one is like a tile guy. He does like contracting work, George, and
Okay.
great people. And I still stay in touch with them. And when I went to my dad's hometown, which is about 6,000 people, 5,800, um, everywhere I went, I would go to the hotels are like, I told them, I go, John, they would say, this is your patria. What patria means home country. They go,
Mhm.
America's not your country. We're your country. And they go, you should come here. And this is what all of them would say. The
And so
bakery,
your dad emigrated
my dad
to the
left
U.S.
to here. He came in the 60s, late 60s with my mom, and my mom came in the late 60s too.
Okay.
And now my dad has we have like 4.5 acres of land there. We have more land with my cousins too. So, but yeah, I have those people there, and I built I made some friends and connections, and like a lot of places that I went to. They're like, John, you got to come here. What are you doing
Mhm.
over there in America? This is
That
your
that
home
must be nice
country.
to feel like you're being welcomed and
I was welcomed
encouraged
by
to come.
everybody. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, even like the tour guides in Athens, those guys that I had at the Acropolis, and when I went to Delphi, we took a 5 hour trip from Athens to Delphi, and those guys are like, "Come here, John. What are you doing in America?" You know. So, and
So you thought I'd give it a try.
one of those guys inspired me. The Thanos, he took us to. You heard of the movie The 300, the Spartans 300? No, it's a movie about the Spartans, and they were being attacked by the Persians, and there's only 300 of them, and they fought them off un, un, until like one of them there was a traitor in the 300, and they told him where the back door was, and they
Oh,
came from behind them, and they slaughtered all of them. And I went to the battlefield where that happened.
wow.
Yeah, I went there, and I went to like another Thermoclean cave. It was amazing. And I I'm a vegetarian, and I went to the Thermoclean cave, and as we were going up this mountain, I felt like energy in my sacral chakra, in my genital area, my first chakra. Okay, I felt like energy moving around over there. I'm like, "What's this?" And I asked people in the car, and there was like 8 of us there in the van, in the minivan, and they're like, none of them felt the energy. And the guy who is like leading the show, Thanos, he goes, John, he goes, where we're going right now, they had fertility rituals. That's probably what you're feeling.
Well,
And
you
then
also have an open root center.
I do. What is that? How does that affect
Well,
it?
so I'm just saying your pelvic area, that's your root, not your sacral. Your sacral is like just under your belly button.
Okay, so my
So
root.
if you're
What
talking
I was
about your
thinking.
pelvic floor and your genitals, that's the root center because it's
Oh
that place
wow,
that it's that part that connects to the earth. So, and it's open on you. So that makes it sensitive to picking up and amplifying energy.
really?
Yeah. So it may be that you were picking up and amplifying some of that energy that he was telling you about. But
Okay.
yeah.
When we got in the cave, it's like, whoa, I could really feel it.
Mm,
We went deep in the cave and everything. It was
interesting.
a great trip.
Interesting. Hmm.
But this guy inspired me because the way he had his minivan set up, I'm an Uber driver, right? So that's what I want to do. I want to get like a minivan when I get to Greece, and I want to do tours in the Peloponnese area by Kalamata and all those other areas over there, Kybarsia. And I want to like take do it like Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Maybe just Friday, Saturday, and Sunday to start, and just work and get a website and get a limo and get a limo's license, and that's what I want to do when I get there is do my own tours, What the hell? I speak Greek, I read Greek, I write Greek.
Great. So you were
That's my
raised with that.
plan.
That's great.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm. Hmm. Good. Well, what else can I support you with, John?
Um you
What kind of questions do you have or things that you're
the
exploring?
the Mandela it seems like from the Mandela that I'm pretty well rounded. It seems like I got a little bit of everything, right? Or no?
Well, it
The,
just
the,
it just
how,
it I wouldn't necessarily characterize it that way. Just but what it does mean is that the planets were in all different, they were kind of spread out in the sky. So there's not a lot of ones that were conjunct, right? The only what you have Pluto and Venus were conjunct in the 47 when you were born. Let's see. You also have the 40, no, but that's not going to be conjunct. 64. You've got Mercury and Jupiter are conjunct in the 64. Um, but yeah, so that's one. If you look in the mandala, have you seen a mandala before?
this is the first time I've ever seen one.
Yeah, they're cool, aren't, isn't it?
Yeah.
And this is basically like the human design system in this one image. So let me just walk you through it so you know what you're looking at. So the outer rim is the quarters of the year.
Okay.
Inside of that are the astrological signs and how they move around the year.
Hmm.
And then inside of that are the 64 hexagrams of the I Ching, which is where the gates come from. And so the numbers come from the hexagrams, but they're also the numbers of the gates. And then inside of that, you'll see there's these little pie marks, right? And inside of the pie marks are planetary symbols. And so this is where the black ones are where those planets were, what gate they were in when you were born. And the red ones are where the planets were 88 days prior to your birth.
Right.
And so what one of the things that differentiates human design from astrology is that we take two snapshots, right? In astrology, you take one snapshot, which
Hmm.
is the when you were born. But astrology does look a lot more at progressions and transits and stuff like that. We don't do that so much in human design, but we do take two snapshots and put them together, and that creates the body graph. So that's why you get the red numbers and the black numbers and the red lines and black lines, because that has to do with whether or not it was when you were born or 88 days prior.
Hmm.
So you do have a clustering over in Virgo. You were telling me earlier, right, that you had a lot of planets in Virgo. Is
Right.
that what you said? So if you look at this, if you look on the right-hand side, a little
Yeah,
bit
I'm
low down,
looking.
you can see there's Virgo, right? And you can see Uranus is there twice, Pluto is there with Venus, Mercury is there with Jupiter, your moon's there, your sun's there. So yeah, you got a lot going on in Virgo.
And that's the relationship, duality part of it.
We don't really talk about the astrological signs in human design.
No,
I'm
I'm
just
just,
pointing that out.
oh, you said that this is the part of the duality relationship, the outer ring.
No, I said the outer ring has to do with the quarters of the year.
Right. And that's where it's located in the outer ring, right?
Yeah, yeah, according to this model. I don't know that I agree with this model, but it is according
Oh, I see
to
what
this
he's.
printout of this particular software. Yeah.
Okay.
hmm Yeah, but Libra is all about relationship, right?
Yeah. Right.
More than Virgo. I mean, Virgo is, but Libra is absolutely about right relationship and being able to see multiple perspectives and all of that. So, and Virgo is more defined feminine energy in my view, you know,
Yeah, I
right?
agree.
And is focused on beauty and order and all that. But like I said, we don't tend to talk about that in human design so much. Yeah. We tend to focus much more on the gates, the definition that the gate that of that the planets create in the gates, how the gates then create definition with channels and centers, and then what the centers mean. So yeah. So it's just a different focus.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, so do you ever feel, so I'm just looking at your split definition. Do you ever feel like your your head is kind of like one personality and then your body is a different personality?
Yeah, for sure.
I know that might sound odd,
I'll
but
give you an example. I'll give you an example.
hmm
My Uncle Peter, the tyrant, who's dead now, thank God. But I forgave him in my own way. And I actually had a good relationship during the last part of his life. He was with my mom a lot, and we saw more eye to eye and everything like that. But basically, what he told me was when I first started getting high, he comes up to me and he says in the restaurant, he sits me down at the table and he goes, "Hey, John." And I go, "Yeah." I'm like, "What's this guy want from me?" He's like, "Why do you get high?" And you know how I answered him?
What?
I said, "My mind says yes, but my body says no." That's how I answered my Uncle Peter. And then he says to me, he goes, "You don't have any willpower?" And I go, "No." I go, "If I want to use drugs, there's nothing that can stop me. I want to use right away. Nothing can stop me from using, you know?" And that's basically how I answered him back then. Is that unusual or difficult? For
uh I, well, I don't know how to answer that.
Okay.
It's not like I talk to people about their appeal to drugs a lot. So
Okay.
but I guess what I meant was you've got a definition up here with your head and ajna, right?
Hey, let me
And
look at that.
and so you've got the head and the ajna are both colored in, right? They're both defined.
Right. Yeah.
And so that can give you I mean it you do have the advantage that they are defined through the sensing circuit, not the logic circuit, but it
Okay.
can mean that you have a lot of mental activity,
I
right?
do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it can feel like this part has a lot of mental activity, but all your power is lower in your body, right? The sacral and the emotional solar plexus are both engines in the chart,
Hmm.
and that's where the power to engage with life is down there. And they're not, and it's not connected to the head. And so sometimes when people have a configuration like that, they can feel like they're a little disconnected between their mental processes and like their power to engage with life or their embodiment, right? And so I just wondered if that was true for you.
It is. And like I told my Uncle Peter, sometimes my mind says yes, but my body says no.
Well, so according to human design, you always want to listen to your body.
Yeah, I know. That's why I was using drugs. I was listening to my mind. And
Yeah.
now I've learned that my mind can be a dangerous place. And then through the prayer meditation that I've been doing all these years and the
hmm
30 years of recovery, I'm realizing um like when I first heard about the uh-huh and the
hmm
that's like wild. I'm like, that's crazy. And that's like so much, it brought peace to me when I heard that.
Nice.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, nice. Well, and see, the thing is sometimes it sounds like you already figured this out, John, but maybe when
Okay.
you were younger, not so much, which is that a lot of times when people have this kind of configuration, it's
Yeah.
hard for them to feel their sacral because their mind is so busy. And we've generally been trained to make decisions with our mind. That's generally how Western culture teaches us is, use your head. But in human design, what we say is that your mind, for example, it can't tell you if you have energy for something, right? Which is a big thing for generators, right? Because even
Yeah.
manifesting generators can burn themselves out if they're doing things that they really don't have energy for, and they force themselves to do things that they don't have energy for. And if you're making decisions with your head, that can definitely happen to people because it's like, your head's like, that's a really great idea. Analytically, it looks awesome. Let's go for it. But you don't have energy for it. So you get halfway into it and then you're like, why am I doing this? I don't even want to do this. Right? I don't have energy for it. Have you ever had that happen?
Yeah. And
Yeah.
that's why I turn to the divine for inspiration and direction and guidance, you know?
Right. Well, and your
Yeah.
sacral
Which
is
is
your
right.
interface with your spirit self, your inner
Yeah.
being,
That's
right?
what I do. Yeah. Now
Yeah,
today
that's
I do
beautiful.
that. And it's like I try to like let other people know that that's how I do it. And maybe that's but I find that some people they don't resonate with intuition. Like my ex-wife, I asked her, I go, why can't you like go within and find your gut, what your gut tells you? She goes, my gut has never ever told me anything in my whole entire life. She told me.
Well,
And
was
I'm
she a
like,
generator or no?
no idea. How am I supposed to know? I don't know, but
Well,
I
you can
remember
run
when
her
I
chart. I'm
was
just saying, not everybody has gut wisdom. Not everybody
okay.
does.
Yeah, well, I just realized from her saying that not everybody ha has this gut instinct
Yeah.
or
No,
intuition
it's
or
just
whatever.
generators. Hmm.
Just generators and manifesting generators.
Hmm.
Yeah. So maybe she was like a manifestor or something. Who knows? Projector. I don't know.
Yeah.
She
Well, you
won't
can
talk
run
to
her
me.
chart,
So,
find
huh?
out. You can run her chart if you have her data.
Right. I have that information. I have her chart. I never thought about putting it in the human design. Oh, wow. Thanks, Maggie.
Yeah, and then you can see is she a generator or not. And but the other thing, John, which I'm sure you know, which is that a lot of times people are disconnected from their
Yeah. A
bodies.
lot of times people are disconnected. I
They're
agree.
they're very
I was.
disconnected from their bodies.
For
So,
years, I was. Yeah.
I mean, even and I'll tell you, I've spent a lot of time over the years teaching people to get in touch with their sacral. A lot of people have trouble with it. So, good for you that you kind of intuitively already knew that or already felt it. But and I talked to lots of people, and some people are like, oh, yeah, I figured that out a long time ago. And other people are like, I have no idea what you're talking about. It's just like, because people's life experience and their inclinations can be quite different from each other. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, some people have really learned to suppress anything they feel in their bodies, you know. Unfortunately, a lot of women do that because of all the projections we have onto our bodies. And so a lot of times we're just like, cut it off,
And
focus on the exterior.
they ignore it too, huh? They project,
Hmm.
they suppress it and they also, by doing that, they ignore it.
Hmm.
And,
Yeah.
and that's like
Well, it
causes,
feels safer. I mean, if you're in a situation where you feel like people are projecting onto your body all the time, not just creating a boundary with that, it makes you feel safer. So it is
well,
something that happens. And people sometimes suppress their emotional wave too. Like I've talked to people who are emotionally defined, and I'll be like, "Oh, do you realize how emotional you are?" And they're like, "I have no idea." And no, I don't. No, I'm not emotional. And I'm like, good job of suppressing.
I used to be like, I used to let the waves overwhelm me, the emotional wave that I have. They would overwhelm me. I'm gonna come out of like, but now, but lately, the past few years, I don't know, yeah, past few years, it's like I'm not as like it's not like a bucking bronco anymore. My emotional waves. The
Well,
more
one thing,
I,
John, is you have a tribal wave
what's
because
that?
the channel that's defining your emotional solar plexus, right, the 59-6, it goes from the sacral over to the six.
Yeah, that one.
That is in the tribal circuit. It's in the defense circuit of the tribal circuit. And usually what that suggests is that you could be fairly even keeled emotionally, except when it comes to relationship. So when relationship is challenged, your wave will be bigger.
And relationship doesn't mean girlfriend, boyfriend, right? It means
It
like,
could be you and your uncle.
yeah, it could be a relationship with people.
Yeah, could be
Okay,
anybody. But
okay.
it's just about because tribal energy is about your relationship with other people. And this part of the tribal circuit tends to be closer in family or people you work with closely, or it tends to be closer in. So, but basically what it's suggesting is that, if you have challenges in the relationship, you're more likely to have uh, amplified emotions.
That's where it's my amplified emotions have always been with with my
Right.
relationship with people. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, because you have a tribal wave.
Mm.
So it's just good to know that, right? And then you can be like, oh, okay. It's about around relationship that I tend to get emotionally activated. So that also means that's a place for you to be really taking good care of yourself. And especially since you have that open G, because the thing about that open G also, it's another good reason to run the chart of your former wife, is that sometimes if you have an open G, you can get attracted to people who have a defined G and kind of fall into them a little bit or kind of follow them around because if you like the way that their G center feels, then you can kind of be like, oh, I like that, and not even realize that you're merging a bit. But then there can be a point where you go, wait a minute, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? I don't even like doing this. I'm doing this because, this other person likes to do it, and I'm doing it just because of them. But I don't like I did a reading for a woman once who she had like this, and I was sharing this with her, and she goes, she had an open G, and she was like, oh God. She goes, yeah, I for about the first 2 or 3 years of my marriage, I loved to do the stuff my husband loved to do. He liked to do all this fun stuff, and it was great. And I would go surfing with him, and I would do this, and I would do that. And now, like, I don't want to do any of it. And I was like, oh. And I said, yeah. And she goes, and he's not happy about it. I'm like, yeah, I bet he's not. And I said, but if you can help show it to him in human design, it can help depersonalize it because oh, I don't, it's not like I'm rejecting you, the
Right. Exactly.
person. It's
Right.
just that we're not resonating in the same way. And sometimes what that means is the relationship needs to become more balanced. So the person who has the open G need to bring themselves forward more because they can tend to kind of be a little more chameleon-like around somebody who has a defined G and just kind of pick up their energy and amplify it and kind of become more like that person. Um, so that's a place that you want to look for to just make sure you're always coming back into yourself. And it would be interesting to see if your former wife had a defined G center, because that's another thing that could have attracted you two together,
Mhm.
right? Even though you found out you weren't such a good match, right? In terms of personality and compatibility. And it's the funny thing about human design. You also could check to see if she has a defined root, because a lot of times people with an open root will want to latch onto somebody who has a defined root because it's your connection to the earth. And so people want to ground through the person with the defined root. So that's another thing to look at in relationship.
So the G center is basically the heart center.
Yeah, the G and the will. So the G's here, the will's right next to it. So I know where the physical heart is.
Right.
And according to the lore of human design, the heart chakra split into two and be created the G and the will at the end of the 18th century. And And so then we get the qualities of love and lovability, identity and direction in the G center. And then the will center is the center for willpower, obviously, but it's also the center for value, worthiness, money, courage, things like that. So, and the will center is also an engine or one of the engines in the chart, motors in the chart. And then most people have it open. 7 out of 8 people have it open because it only has 4 gates that can get defined. So it
Now,
doesn't get defined all that much.
what does it mean for me to have an open will center?
Well,
That
my experience with the will center is that many people, regardless if it's defined or open, have the kind of disempowered expression of that will center because a lot of people have challenges with their worthiness and their value, how they value themselves and their own sense of self-worth. And that can happen with people who have a defined will center also. But theoretically, according to traditional human design, if you have it open, you'd be more likely to have those kind of challenges. Does that resonate for you?
so I have more.
Worthiness, value, self-value.
Yeah, that's where I find like struggles in the past,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it's about worthiness and
Value. And it can translate into money, also, and
cause
willpower.
cause as I said earlier, my mom when my dad passed away, she bought apartment buildings and I kind of like managed those apartment buildings from 1990 up until she passed away in 2023.
Yeah, that's a long time.
Even afterwards, that's like 34 years. Even like afterwards, by the time we sold them in 2024, I was still managing the apartment buildings. And that's like another book that I want to write called Lording of the Land. You know, that's another book that I don't want to do that. But
But did those apartment buildings appreciate in value? Did they end up
yeah, of
giving you, like when you sold them, was that a big boon for you financially?
course. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a way that even though while the time you were doing it, you weren't really making money while you were doing it, they did appreciate. And so they were a valuable asset, which you were then
Yeah.
able to sell years later. So in a way, you could just think of, the work that you were doing was supporting this asset,
Yeah,
appreciating in
that's
value.
how I look at it now. I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, over the years, and I see it now where now I'm 56 years old and I'm no longer managing anymore. And I have like this freedom to do what I want to do. And that's
Yeah.
why I decided I want to start a channel and now I have like all these ideas that keep coming to me, you know, and it's like how do I manage all of my creativeness? It's like new to me, Maggie. It's really new to me. It's like now it's like all these years I've working for my mom and doing what she wanted to do, and now it's like, look at me, you know?
Right. And it sounds like you now have resources to be able to move degrees and do what you want,
Yeah,
right? I mean,
right.
you're more or less have what you need financially. That's great. See, so even though, like I said, even though during those years you didn't really feel like you were making money, you were all, it was all an investment for now. And now you have
Right.
this freedom, right? So that's actually a beautiful way that you set things up, even though during the time it might have felt frustrating because you weren't really making money.
Well, I know I was helping my mom. I was getting by. I was having fun. I was going out with my friends. I was doing a lot of great things.
Hmm.
And so it's like I always had a pretty optimistic attitude about things, and I really ever since I started getting clean after like a while, even when I was getting married, I really wasn't depressed of much. I didn't have much depression.
That's great.
When my divorce hit. I was like hit hard, and like who wouldn't be, you know? But I overcame that after the years, and I think the profile 2-4, um, like the hermit and the opportunist, I in the morning I need my alone time. I don't want anybody around me in the morning. And when I was living with my mom, it's like I wanted her deep down, I wanted her to shut the fuck up, you know. But when she would talk, I really didn't tell her that. I'm like, how can I get away from her? To, you know, I don't, she should like should be talking to me in the morning, and she'd be loving and caring, and I just didn't want any of it. I just wanted to be
Well, that's
alert.
probably part of your emotional wave. You were more on the low part of your wave, and you just wanted to be more
Ah,
internal and more quiet, more doing your own thing. And then that connects with your hermit, that likes those things. And then did you come more away, more alive later in the day?
yeah, all the time. I would engage with her. Don't get me wrong. Okay, I really didn't like hate my mother or anything like that.
No,
I just
I'm not hearing that. I mean,
I
I'm the
just
same
would
way.
rather
I don't
I
like to
would
talk to
rather
people in the morning.
not talk to her. That's the whole
No,
thing.
I don't really want to talk to anybody in the morning. I mean,
Yeah, yeah, in the morning.
no.
I'm like that in the morning.
Yeah,
I'd rather be by myself. And then like later on in the day, I mean, I was driving Uber back then, and I love driving Uber because I never know where I'm going. It's novelty is my favorite thing. I'm also an ENFP, so novelty is like my favorite thing. I like not knowing where I'm going is like great. Like that's the new adventure every day,
that's great.
and that's what I do. And I eat at new places all the time. I never know where I'm going with when I drive Uber. Yeah, it's just
Yeah,
nature.
that
And
sounds fun. That sounds like a good fit for you.
I've had this job for over 6.5 years. In December, in February, I'm going to be 7 years with Uber, and in July, I marked 16,000 rides.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and when I joke with my friends, you know, they're like, "What do you like the most about Uber?" I'm like, the last thing I say to everybody in my Uber is, "Got everything?" You know. And my friends are like, "Oh, that's smart, John." I'm like, "Yeah, I've learned that it's not fun, you know."
People leave stuff.
Yeah, so I say, "Got everything?" after every ride, and they go, and then I say to them, I go, "That's because I never want to see them ever again," as a joke, you know.
Yeah,
But it's true. I don't want to see them again. I had
right.
them in the car, and now it's goodbye, you know.
Yeah, I
So
get that.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, okay.
Hmm. Yeah.
And so that's like the and the getting from the sacral,
Hmm.
how it talks to you, and the hermit opportunist are the two most things that I got out of human design.
Mm.
You know,
Well,
because
and watching your emotional wave and how it can influence your sacral, you want to make sure that you're looking at that also.
uh-huh,
Because when you're emotionally defined, you want to give yourself time to make decisions. The idea, and you have most of the integration circuit, which also needs time. So, one of the things I would suggest is making sure that you give yourself enough time to make good decisions because you want to be able to ask your sacral multiple times during your emotional wave. So, I don't know if you have a day emotional wave like you were just describing, like in the morning you're more introverted, and in the evening you're more extroverted, or if it also goes over a period of days. But with whatever you can identify, the point is you want to be tuning into your sacral when you're feeling differently emotionally, and you're looking for a consistent yes. And anything other than a consistent yes is a no. So that's one thing that you want to put in there with your sacral. Because when you're emotionally defined, you can get a uh-huh from your sacral, but it could be influenced by how you're feeling emotionally. And so you want to ask when you're your emotions are different. so that you know that you're getting a consistent yes no matter how you're feeling emotionally. Because the sacral is not emotional. It's not emotional and it's not verbal. So if you're feeling emotional, then it's not your sacral. So the sacral is very like neutral. It just goes mm-hmm or mm-mm. You know, it can sometimes have some intensity to it, like mm-mm. Like every once in a while I get that. It's like no, right? I'm like, okay, got it. You know, it's like there's intensity there, but it's not really emotion. Like it's not fear. You know, like if I feel fear, I know it's not my sacral. Does that make sense? It's like your
Yeah,
sacral doesn't operate in fear.
I feel like my sacral is like lets me know if I have the energy to do what needs to be done. You know, if I don't have the energy, it's like, I can't do it.
Hmm. Yeah,
Or
exactly.
yeah, and if I
Exactly.
do it, it'll be draining,
Yeah.
and I'll get
But
angry.
all
My
I'm saying,
emotional.
especially for important decisions,
Okay.
ask multiple times. Don't just
Well,
ask once.
and the spleen, going back to the spleen, that basically, from what I understand it, is instinctual. Is
Yeah,
that
it's the
right?
Center for Instinct and Intuition and the immune system and right timing. Now, the challenge with the spleen is it can fall into fear, and the gates of the spleen are known as fear gates. So the 57, which you have defined, is has the fear of the future, and then the 48 has the fear of not knowing enough. Do either of those resonate for you?
Yeah, because it's like it's like sometimes I'm like frozen because I need to know more before I proceed.
Well, one of the things to check out for yourself is, and you can ask your sacral this, interestingly enough, is you can just tune in and just really ask yourself, it's like, do I know enough about this already? Mm-hmm. Okay, I do. Okay, but there's some fear I have, right? Is that fear, is that a valid fear? Mm-mm, right? So it's good to check because that fear of not knowing enough can be inaccurate. It's not necessarily true.
Oh, I see.
And because it is the fear that the 48 can have. Most people of the 48 know a lot about whatever it is they're interested in because it's wisdom. It's like it's great for research. It's great for learning things. It's so usually the 48 uh, feels pretty confident about what it knows, unless it falls into that fear. But that's where you want to just really double check with yourself and say, do I really not know enough? I mean, because one of the things, so I have the 48 defined in my chart, and um, if I ever have this sense of like I don't know enough about something, I'll be like, okay, what specifically do I need to know that I don't already know? And that's what I look for. Because if it's just a generalized, I don't know enough, that's no. You want to
Yeah,
know, because every once in a while you might be like, oh, yeah, there's this one thing I wanted to find out about. I haven't done that yet. Okay, so I need that piece. Like there's
yeah.
something specific.
I'm very
Right.
similar to what you just said, Maggie. It's like sometimes I call it like a need to know, and if I can't do it like right away, I'll try to like figure it out how to know about that later. Like I just learned about this one guy I was watching a video on, um, and he was talking about coaching, and I'm like, this is great, you know. And I went on just before I got on the call with you. I went on there and I looked up his book, and it's $45, and I'm like, this motherfucker, you know. And excuse my language. I'm like, I'm gonna buy it. I don't care if it's $45, but it's like he has so much, and he was talking about it like in his video, you know, about stuff like that. And I'm like, yeah, you know, I need to know this, so I'll pay the 45, you know. But usually books like that are usually books are around like 20 to 30 20, you know, 20 bucks usually a book is, you know, but this one's for it's like, yeah, I need to know it, so I'm gonna get
Well,
it.
it depends on how big it is. It depends on if it's printed in color at all. because anytime there's color in a book, it jacks up the price a lot.
Yeah, I understand, but 45, okay, let me put it this way. I have never paid $45 for a book like that. Okay,
Yeah,
so,
I mean, I
but
paid
I saw the value in it. I saw the
when
value in
this
it.
one
Yeah.
came out, when this one came out, I paid $75 for it.
Oh, really? That's a big one, huh?
Yeah. Well, I mean, how many pages is it? It is 400 pages, so it's
100
not huge, but but they're printed in a bunch of them are printed in color.
color. Yeah.
Mhm.
Anyways, I couldn't tell. I couldn't look inside to see if there's any color or anything like that, but I just needed to know. So
Well, and
I
if you
did.
just need it,
Yeah,
you need it, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
And the thing is I feel, as an author myself, people don't make enough money on their books generally.
Right. I know. I
Well,
know.
you're an author.
Yeah, I know. And another question I got, I mean, m- you you've probably seen like typical manifesting generators, okay? And I don't, a typical manifesting generator, from what I understand, has like the sacral done, a sacral root defined. And I'm not saying that I'm typical or not, I really don't know. But I mean, is there any advice that you can give somebody who's got the spleen, the root, the emotional, the throat, and the two top in the heads, the anja and all that? Is there anything
The fact that they're defined.
that all the stuff that's defined in my chart is there like anything that you want me to need to know? Is what I'm trying to answer.
Well, I mean, well, that's why I asked you about the split, right? With the head
Yeah.
and the
Right.
body, right? Because
Yeah.
that's because the thing is that this energy is circulating inside the head and ajna, but it's not getting out anywhere. It has no access to the throat, so it has no access to be
Oh,
expressed.
wow. Yeah.
Okay. So there's a
Yeah.
lot of mental activity, but
Yeah.
it can have a hard time manifesting or activating anything because it doesn't have access to the throat. And so that's why I was asking you, do you sometimes feel like you have two different parts of your personality? Because there's all this power down here and it's all circulating, right? And there's all this action energy, manifesting energy coming into your throat, right? And that's where your power is. But then there's all this mental activity up here. So that can lead you to feel a little bit like a split personality, right?
Mhm.
And so then the thing is like, how do you get the two parts to talk to each other? You know what I mean? And so that you don't feel so split. Yeah. So that's one thing. I mean, the other is you do have, I mean, the thing about the spleen is uh, because it's the center for instinct, it can fall into fear.
Okay.
And so you really want to watch out for that. But I'm not so concerned about that for you because of what you've shared regarding just doing so much inner work, like, really going inside and getting to know yourself on the inside and all that. That when people do that, generally they're not as prone to the fear that can get going in the spleen because they're more connected to their inner guidance, right? And so that's beneficial, right? But you want to watch out if you do fall into fear that you'd really just kind of pause and go, okay, wait a minute. Like, is this just a splenic fear that I'm having right now? Like a fear that I don't know enough, or I'm projecting some fear into the future or something like that. Am I just because if you can identify it and go, oh, that's just my spleen, then a lot of times you can just walk through it rather than having it stop you. But if you have the fear of the future, for example, and there's a lot of reasons people have fear of the future right now. I mean, there are valid reasons to have fear of the future, right? Climate change and so many things happening but you don't want to fuel that, right? You want to, as much as you can, be in that present moment because that's where you're going to take action and that's where you're going to connect with yourself. It's in the present moment, not out there in the projected future. So the spleen can be a benefit for sure. You just, again, you have to manage that energy so that you don't fall into fear. Or if you do fall into fear, you know what it is. Because our survival mechanism, right, is designed to help us when we have real and present danger and the physical body is in danger. Like literally the physical body is, a car is going to hit you, an animal's going to attack you, a person's going to attack, whatever, you're going to fall off of a cliff or, that's really what the survival mechanism is for, is to protect the physical body. Okay. And that's what instinct is based in largely, is protecting the physical body and then protecting our children, right? And so creating and protecting children. That's what instinct is all about, right? It's protecting the self, protecting the future in the form of children. So whenever you feel fear, it's good to be like, okay, am I in any real and present danger or not? Because you can be just sitting in your living room and generate fear, right? You get a
Right.
thought of something, or you see something on TV and you get all this fear in your body. Well, that's not healthy, right? Because that activation of our survival mechanism, right, shuts down our digestion, it shuts down our breathing, it actually shuts down the frontal lobe, sends energy out to the extremities and gives us the ability to move and do big physical actions in order to protect the physical body. But if you're sitting there, like looking at your screen and you get all this fear, you've got all this adrenaline, what are you going to do with that, right? Nothing. Like it kind of tweaks you, especially if it happens over and over and over and over and over, which is the way that a lot of people live these days, right? And
Well,
so that's why we want to always, like, if you feel fear, get yourself to come right into this moment and be like, is there any real and present danger right here, right now? Because if there isn't, then you don't need the fear.
well, you've heard of fear and faith. They say basically worry is a lack of faith.
Well,
And
worry is fear projected into the future.
right. And I have like so much faith that my fears like is diminished.
See, that's beautiful. See, you've
Yeah.
already done that work, John, where, and I would just say, so that's the thing about the spleen, right? Is that when you've been able to have faith, right? You have the gate of faith to the 55, which is your earth.
Really?
Uh-huh. Yep. It's on the emotional solar plexus. It's
Oh, I see it.
your
Yeah.
earth. Mhm. That's the gate of faith. So that's a beautiful thing, right? And that also means that you're grounding in your creative potential because that emotional solar plexus is creative energy, it's creative potential. And so that gives you the ability to create with creative energy instead of creating with fear. Because we create primarily with emotions, emotional energy. But a lot of times we don't realize that we are. And unfortunately, a lot of people create with fear because fear is rampant. And there's many things in the outer world that are trying to stimulate our fear to make us controllable and make us disempowered. And so one of the many beautiful things about going inside and building your faith is you're not so at the mercy of all of those other forces that are um, trying to stimulate your fear, right? Because you've got this
Right.
faith, this resilience, and this faith and this certainty on the inside. So it's a beautiful thing. And then you get to create more with your creative emotional energy, and not with your fear energy. Does that make sense?
It does. It does. It kind of like brings me back to what you were saying in the beginning of the call. Um, when you were saying the stillness, remember when you
Hmm.
were mentioning that
Hmm.
and how important that is? And I think that's probably how I get out of here and into here is through the stillness, you
Yes.
know?
Hmm.
Yeah. I think
Yeah.
it's like a portal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Because this is busy,
Yeah.
right? It's busy. And it's like, whoa, okay, slow down, calm down, slow down.
Would you say that once I get the stillness to happen and the chatter kind of like gets ready to like subside,
Hmm.
and then when I get down into my body and I find like direction from divinity or my gut or my sacral, once I get the proper direction, then it could say, okay, this is what I want to create, and then like if I could give direction from my body to my mind, then I could help it in the creation process,
Hmm.
right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because
Yeah.
that's what I've discovered over the years.
Hmm.
And I've been more, I mean, my rating, you know, my rating is an Uber 5.0. And I get lots of people in my car. And my rating has gone down to the lowest it's gotten is 4.96, but I'm at 5.0 again. And I was at 4.9 for like the whole year now. And I just got the 5.0 like a couple weeks ago. And
Congratulations.
thank you. And it's because I'm able to be still.
Right.
When I start my Uber, I confirm the address, I tell them how long it's going to take to get there, and then I say, "How's your day going?" And I want to hear how their day's going if they want to tell me. And if they tell me, then we have a conversation. If they don't tell me, then we listen to my music or they listen to their music, and it doesn't
Right.
bother me. I never like force a conversation on somebody because I don't think I wouldn't want them to do that to me, you know? So that's why I got a 5.0. It's-
All
You know,
right. Well, John, we're coming up on the end of our time. So, can you share with me like one or two takeaways that you have from our reading? Helps you just collect your thoughts, help me know what was valuable.
yeah, one thing that I got was the tribal circuit and
Mm,
how my emotional wave is connected to that. And that like really like I understand a lot more now because
hmm.
it's like if it's like a stranger, I'm not gonna my emotional wave is not gonna be like as cuckoo as it can be with someone that I care about, you know?
Right.
And that's
Exactly.
one thing there. And the split definition really helped too. And it seems like over the years, I've kind of like come to terms with like being an introvert in the beginning of the day and then going to my extrovert for the rest of the day.
Yeah.
And going back to my introvert, you know. That's my way. It's like a daily thing. It doesn't happen. And then I realized that like now that it's like dark out,
Hmm.
it kind of like expands and contracts with it with the sunlight I get, you know?
Yeah.
Because at night now I need more introversion. I don't go out with my friends as much now that at night like I used to. Okay. And then the open G, I didn't realize the effect of somebody with a closed G might have on me.
Right. Hmm.
I didn't realize that before.
Yeah. Absolutely. Somebody with a defined G can definitely influence you. And it can be a beautiful thing. Like
Yeah,
if you are connecting with somebody who has a lot of love energy and is really clear about their identity, they feel good about themselves, those kind of people feel really good to be around, right? But if somebody is really judging themselves, they don't know who they are, they're, in a lot of kind of judgment energy,
I'm
it's not going to
scattered.
feel very good.
Yeah. Is there anything that you think I should take away that I may not have considered before?
Yeah, those are good. Those are good. And, and I just want to emphasize, especially since you are going to move.
Yeah,
Again, you just want to make sure you're in the right place with the right people and don't settle because over time that'll really wear on you if you're not with the right people in the right place.
because
And I
what I'm
realize that you're going, kind of back to the motherland for you and that you have family there and that can all be great. But I would just say be discerning about what's going to really support you and make sure that you're like just kind of really feeling in and being like, is this right? Because there can be all kind of gradations of right. There can be like, oh, this is good enough, right? And this is, oh, that feels pretty good. And then this can be like, oh, this is awesome. I feel great here. Right. And I want to just support you to go for this is awesome. It feels great here. Right. Just be discerning and feel into it because there's no formula for this, John. Like I can't give you a formula or anything, but it is just about trusting how you feel on the inside. Yeah.
Okay. Since we've had this call, I've been thinking about possibly because my sister's going to go there to Greece at the end of in July.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah,
Hmm.
and I'm thinking about going there with her, and we can go there together. And now that I think about it, it might be better off to go there with her. And I'm not going to be with her the whole time, of course. I can go on my own and see how I feel about everything before I make the move, and then maybe move like in October or August or I don't know, maybe
Yeah.
move later.
Yeah,
Maybe
I would just say like feeling, and the other thing is that, you can move and go to a certain place, like pick the best place possible, but then just really be honest with yourself about how it feels to be there. Because after you're there for 6 months or a year, you might be like, okay, this place is fine. It's fine, but it's not awesome. I want awesome, right? And so I'm just saying, because with that open G, you're going to be really influenced by who you're around and the environment that you're in. And so when you're in a really great environment with the right people, it's going to boost you. And when you're not, it's going to drain you. Whereas somebody who has a defined G, they're not as influenced by that because they've already got their stability of their identity. And yours
hmm,
is a little more variable. So that's all.
open. All right.
Yeah. It's not a liability. It's just something you want to pay attention to.
All right, that makes a lot more sense.
And my guess is that having that open G is also part of what's made it possible for you to grow as much as you have in your life because you don't have such a fixed identity. You've been allowing your identity to grow and morph and develop over the course of your life. And that's easier when you have an open G.
And that's probably why I was so successful with the alarm system knocking on doors business.
Yeah, might have been. Yeah,
All
yeah. All right, dear. Well, take good care. I hope this was
right,
helpful. Yeah, yeah.
thanks.
Nice to meet
And
you. And
nice to meet you.
yeah, if you do decide, if your family decides they want any readings, I'm happy to provide that for them too, if you feel like that's a good next step for them.
Okay. Is it possible for me to share this on my channel later on in the year or no?
Usually I just provide a video, I mean an audio
Okay.
recording. Do you want a video recording?
If I can, yeah, that'd be great.
I could give you a video recording
Yeah,
if
yeah.
you like that. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
So what I'll do is I'll just send you a Dropbox link and you can just download it from Dropbox.
All right,
Okay.
Maggie.
Just make sure to tell me when you've done that because I'll delete it because I
Okay.
can't keep that many video files.
I
It's
understand.
too
Yeah.
much data. Yeah. So, but I'm fine doing that for a few days. So if you can just make sure to download it by this weekend sometime, that'd be
Okay.
great. And I'll send you a follow-up today with it's going to have to process, but I can send it to you no later than tomorrow morning.
All right. Thanks. Thanks. Have a happy.
You're welcome. You're welcome, Don. It's nice to meet you and good luck with it
You
all.
too. All right.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye.